player who had premiered the Hummel trumpet concerto, I think. He had like, I think he had, well, it's rediscovery after. But was that what it was? Or,
Recommissioned piece.
yeah, he recommissioned it. Yeah, there you go.
I knew Josh Sick was getting up there, but that's...
No, but he dealt with so many world-class musicians and, you know, world-leading musicians, and brought them in here for us to experience. Yeah, Dizzy. Yeah. Gosh, never remember Dizzy. Never forget Dizzy's cheeks. Do you remember watching his cheeks?
Yeah.
Dizzy Gillespie's
Wasn't that
cheeks.
something?
He'd play. He'd
Yeah, he was.
and yeah, and his cheeks, he would puff up his cheeks like a second before the note would hit. So you'd see, when he was getting ready to play, you'd see, ba. It was just the weirdest thing. And Doc Severinsen was, he rehearsed, his workout was like 7 or 8 hours of warm-up before his performances, like every day, 365 days a year. And
How many hours?
like 7 or 8.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely trained like an athlete. And he liked the bathroom. Didn't he rehearse in the bathroom? I don't remember which one it was, but that's where he spent his 7 hours here getting ready for the concert, was in the bathroom. Or it could have been throwing up because he went drinking the night before. But I don't want to start rumors about Doc Severinsen. But, no. But so some of the world-class folks. What?
Tons of them.
Yeah.
Clark Terry.
Oh, absolutely.
Clark Terry might have been my first year.
I think it was.
Yeah, it
Those
was.
are big
Sounds-
This was playing.
And Louis Belson,
Louis
Pearl
Belson.
Bailey's husband. Man, he was amazing.
Clark Terry signed my plunger.
Hey, we've all got problems. Don't tell me about it. Okay.
Thank you very much. This is
Thank you.
very helpful.
Thank
It's
you for
much
doing
more
this.
than I can use. So, but anyway, from this I can generalize. I appreciate it very much. As I was pulling in here today and I parked illegally, it reminded me of a story. Several stories, but people didn't like having these, what do they call them? The things that they put on your tire so you can't make
Boots?
Right,
Yeah.
right over.
Right.
Rhino boot. People didn't like those, and I got sworn at a lot of times. But one day, the prior day to the next morning, all the television stations were talking about the fact that we were gonna have a storm that would make 1886 look like nothing. Everything's compared to 1886. I mean, so I, as was typical when this happened, I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and the storm had not come in. And so I didn't cancel school.
I don't think you ever canceled school.
Yeah,
Maybe
and
one-
about
maybe
that.
one.
Wait,
Maybe
oh,
one.
I'm sorry.
It was there. Well, I knew you were all here to get an education.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate that.
So anyway, I come to school, and at 8 o'clock, it's just like God was trying to get back at me for something, and it just plopped down. The snow started coming down, and it was getting colder, and so I said to all of the deans and department chairs, go to every classroom, call it off. Tell them to go home now. And so, pretty soon I'm in my office, and I get a call from this guy. The secretary does, and she's trying to handle him, but it's very clear he's not going to be pacified. So I heard this, and I said to her, switch him over to me. So he started in on me, and he said, you know, I've never met you, but you have to be the dumbest SOB that I've ever encountered in my life. And I said, well, what's your problem? He said, well, I believe in education. That's why I'm here. I came, and now you've called off school, and my dad brought me in from Bellevue, and I have no way to go home. He said, there are probably 1,000 kids out here who would like to, who wear 10.5 cowboy boots, and they'd like to put this boot. And he wasn't sparing any words. I said, so typically in those kind of situations, I don't tolerate that very well, but somehow someone was looking after me, and I said to him, you know, I understand it was a bad decision, bad call, But why don't you come on over to my office? I'll give you a ride home. He said, I'm not coming over to your office. I said, why not? I said, I'm serious. I'll take you home. I understand the problem. No, thanks anyway. Hung up the phone. But it was one of the strangest things that ever happened in terms of students being mad. So anyway. Well, Jim Saker, you know, was either the first or second person that I hired after I came here. And I was really impressed with him. And he turned the job down.
Really?
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
I thought about that. I got back on the phone the next day and I called him again. And I told him a bunch of lies. And I said, "If you come
There's good kids there. Is that what you told him?
Yeah.
No.
I said,
Norm made
You know-
just roll on you.
No.
so I said,
And stick with you.
We're gonna get a new uniform, we're gonna do everything that needs to happen. Anyway, he came. And it was the best call I ever made, really.
Wow.
I'm glad to hear all these nice things
Thank
about
you.
it. So-
Thank you,
No.
yeah.
You did well.
Uniforms were cool back then.
There you go.
I'm sorry, what?
Those were cool uniforms.
Yeah.
They were.
Absolutely.
You mean the ones you first had?
Mhm.
Yeah.
The longer coats
Yeah.
Yeah.
that I first.
Oh,
had,
yes.
Not the ones that were.
But you're not talking about the 45-year-old uniform.
No.
I tell you, I came from Arizona State and we had a 300-piece band there. It was probably not the greatest band in the world, but they were well dressed. And I got here and I went to my first football game and there was a man by the name of Reggie Shive who was
Yeah.
the band director. And these kids came out onto the field, 45 strong, and performed at the halftime with suits that were just pathetic. I mean, or uniforms, I'm sorry. And I sat there and I looked at that, and it was embarrassing. I mean, it was just really bad. And so Jim and I talked about that, and for a year, I think we went with just white shirts and black trousers before we were able to find enough money at that time to get the
Yep.
uniforms. So they're wonderful days.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happened to the football? Hey, let me turn off the football program. Never mind.
What happened to it?
Yeah, it was a rhetorical question.
Well, it's unfortunate in a lot of ways.
Yes,
but
it
I
is.
think probably there was nothing they could do about it. I mean, they were probably just, I think they were headed in another direction and football wasn't a part of it. And football was a major drain on the budget.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll tell you one quick story about that also. Football was always a problem in terms of finances and that whole thing. And one year, we got cut by the legislature pretty drastically, so I pulled $310,000 out of the budget for athletics because we just had to do that. And so then we had to sit down and, as a team and begin to think, how are we going to fund this? As I think back, it was so quaint. The athletic director at the time said, you know what, I think we should begin selling calendars. He was serious. You know, and I thought, yeah, selling calendars.
$310,000.
$300,000?
Yeah.
So anyway, I finally decided that we had to get into pickles. You know, do you all
Yeah,
play pickles?
yeah, pickle cards.
And and I knew this was not going to be easy, because I knew the World Herald would come out against it, because they're adamant about that kind
They
of.
come out with a lot of stuff,
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
they?
And my own inner staff did not support it. They did not want that to happen. And I said, I'm not going to be the person to kill football. You know, that's just not what I'm going to do. And so I went down to the World Herald and said to them, we're going to have to do this. And I'd really appreciate your handling this very lightly. And he said, we'll do one editorial, and that'll be it. You won't hear any more. So we got into pickles, and we were making $500,000 a year on pickles.
Wow.
We even were ahead of the Catholic Church.
Oh my gosh.
In pickles. And so I said, you know, we've got to be very careful about UBIT taxes, unrelated business income taxes. And so every year we put away 20%, 25%, in case the feds ever came down and said, no, we've got to pay your taxes on this. So we had $1,200,000. in the kitty.
Wow.
And the feds did swoop in, and they said, you've got to start doing some changing, but you also need to pay taxes. So we negotiated it, and they charged us $50,000. So we had $1,150,000. And so that's how we were able to fund hockey. That's how that all.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's a more complicated story, but if we hadn't had that, we couldn't have started it, because we had no start.
Huh. Wow.
So it's kind of interesting. All those things,
Amazing.
you know, as we talk together, you start to come back to your head about things that were here and weren't here in those days.
Have you written them all down?
You know, I
You
have.
started
I
writing?
have. I just finished a book that's just for my grandchildren and my children called Memoirs.
Hmm.
And I started that 40 years ago.
Hmm.
Lost interest in it, came here, didn't have time, but kept making notes, you know.
Wow.
And finally, I had a granddaughter who's at the University of Kansas working on her MFA. And she said, if you put the book together, she said, if you get it written, I'll put the whole thing together in a book, which she did. It's beautiful.
Hmm.
And the other granddaughter, who was graduated in creative writing, said, I'll do the editing. And editing's the toughest part of all of it. So anyway, so it's done.
Wow.
But I've written down a lot of things because, you know, you need to have someone like this that triggers some of these things back into your memory about
Mhm.
things that happen that you don't think about anymore. Anyway, enough of that. So,
Wow.
very nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bringing
you
me
for
and
that.
to talk with you. It's very helpful to me. I feel much more comfortable now
Good,
than I
good,
did
good,
when I
good.
started. So.
So glad you're able
Have a good
to
day.
do this. Thanks.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you so much.